Ready to set up your very first bullet journal, get it personalized, be creative, and get completely organized? Then this is the video for you. Hi, I'm Nehar, mindfulness and journal coach and expert. Welcome to Journal 101. In a previous video, I talked about bullet journaling. So today I thought it'll make sense, being such a creative form of journaling, that I give you a live demo. For those of you that haven't watched my bullet journaling video, I'm just going to give you a quick overview. Bullet journaling is a very creative type of journaling. It really helps when you feel overwhelmed with your to-do list, with what your tasks, your goals, your habit tracking and everything. And you might have various different apps or journals or logs to record all this. Bullet journal helps you use just one journal to record everything you need to. It's a perfect tool to keep track of your goals, to have your to-do list, your calendar, your agenda, your habit tracking, your sleep tracking, anything like that at all. It's not just a tool, it's a complete game changer. So I'm hoping by the end of today's video, you will not only know more about bullet journaling, but be able to put your own bullet journal together with a few of the demos that I'm going to give you. Of course, I'm going to try and go through as many examples as possible. Not all of them are ones that I personally use because right now it's probably not something I need or it's not part of my 2025 goal. But I'm going to give you as many examples as I can. The main purpose of a bullet journal is to help you stay focused, stay organized, and be clutter-free in your mind and in your physical surroundings. There's normally a couple of parts to a bullet journal that is necessary all the time. So the first is the index or the contents page. This is similar to if you were, for example, creating a report in Word and you would use the automated contents page. Every time you add a new section, you refresh your contents page and it appears on there. It's that sort of stuff, really. So I will show you in a little while how you can lay out a contents page. The next segment is your future log. This is where you log your goals, your events for the future, for the following month. Perfect for keeping tracks of birthdays, special events, long-term goals, that sort of stuff. The next one is your monthly log, or you could have a weekly log, which is obviously the current month or the current week. And then the next one is your daily log. So that's the one you use on a regular basis. And then you add things like your gratitude, your habit tracking, your goal settings, that sort of stuff. Just before I go into a demo, I just want to go through a few of the key benefits for you. One of the best things about bullet journaling, and the reason I use it so much, is because it helps you become clutter-free. Like I said, you don't need various apps, you don't need various journals, you don't need to buy really expensive journals just because it has everything. You can just use the one journal to log everything you need to. And at the same time, it helps you reduce that mental clutter that you've got in your mind because you're putting it all down on paper. It's very common for students to use, for professionals to use, and also becoming very, very popular for parents. Of course, it encourages mindfulness, which is why I use it a lot, as well as creativity. And it's absolutely game changer when it comes to setting and achieving your goals. So first things first. So you could use any sort of notebook you like. I kind of prefer the ones with dots. Not sure if you can see it, but hopefully you can in the live video. And you need some pens or some crayons, whichever you prefer. So I quite like ink pens because I like writing in them, but obviously you could also use crayons if that's easier for you. And I would suggest using a ruler as well. Your notebook doesn't have to be anything fancy. I quite like the dotted journals just because when doing tables on them, I find the jotted journals just make it easier for me to draw a straight line. But the journal I use quite a lot has dotted on one side, lines on the other. You don't have to use that. You don't have to use anything like that. You could use just dotted. You could use plain. There has been times where I've used just a plain journal, no lines, no nothing. Entirely up to you what you want to do, how creative you want to be. This year I have gone for the lines and the dot, mainly because I have a 9-month-old right now. So I need something that's quick and easy for me to be able to use. Of course, you then have the options of stickers, any sort of tape, anything else that you want to use to make it creative. That's entirely up to you. I like to leave the first page blank when I'm setting up, mainly because I want to put some of my goals in there, some motivating quotes in there, but they're things that you could do once you start putting things together. So I always leave that page blank. The next thing I like to do is, because these are obviously notepads, I like to number the pages. Now you don't have to number every single page. You might leave the first page blank, the next 2 pages you'll leave as well, and then you would start numbering. The reason for that is because then when you do your index, you can go back to those pages and see what numbers they are. Now, you don't need to do all of them because you're not going to fill out all of it in one go. So maybe up to the first 10. Now, there's no right and wrong way about numbering them. You can number them at the top, you can number them at the bottom, in the middle of the page, entirely up to you. And then you come to obviously the first set of double pages. I always use the one on the right-hand side. So in this case, my lined one. For my contents page, you don't have to, but it means I've always got the page next to the content page to, again, write any sort of motivational words in there, write my goals out in there in more detail. I have in the past put a little picture of my vision board in there, just so every time I open it, I see it there. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start the index page. With the index page, you can make it as beautiful as you like. I've obviously done a very simple one here right now with my trademark smiley faces because that keeps me happy. But you could do anything you like. You can put stickers on there, you could get vinyls, anything you like to make it personal. Because I use my bullet journal to track habits, goals, my year ahead, as well as my mental well-being, there are a few things that I put at the start of my journal rather than later on. But obviously you can add them wherever. There is no set pattern that it needs to be in. My goals is always page 1 because that's where I like them to be at the very start, so I know exactly what they are. So the first thing I like to include in my index is my goals. The second thing is my habits. And the third thing is my mental well-being. Then I include a key, and then I do my future log for the annual year ahead. Then I do another future log just for the month. Then a monthly log, so as in the current month that I'm in, it will be January. And then I do a daily log. Obviously, I don't write daily log every time I do a daily log. I will just add the numbers at the end if I need to keep track of it, but I would write just where I've started. So it would look something like this. Obviously, it'll be more creative. This is just one I've done live. If you need to keep track of your finances, you could add finances in there. But the whole point of the index page is every time you change something or every time you add something new, you can put it in there. So let's say for the sake of this video, I have decided halfway through January that I'm planning a trip and I want a page where I could do trip planning. So I could just add that in. So I just write trip planning, page 20. Obviously, it means my daily log has stopped at page 19. So I will just put daily log page 9 to page 19. So that's there. When you start your February log, you just write the page of when February is and go from there. Remember, this is not about being perfect, so it doesn't matter if your index page gets messy. If you want, you could do your index page in pencil so you could scribble them out if needed. I like to create my future log as an annual calendar, a 12-month overview, and I will put a little key at the bottom so I know what they mean. So I would highlight birthdays in one colour, I would highlight events in another colour, I would highlight appointments in another colour, just so you could get an idea of how it needs to look, and just write a little key. The key can be absolutely anything, and it doesn't need to be the key that you're going to use for your daily journal. There's a lot of people, however, that don't always do a 12-month overview with a calendar format because they just prefer to list it. That is absolutely fine as well. So your future log can literally be the months listed and the dates underneath it. The downside I personally find to that is if something gets added and you've not left with enough room, I then have to squeeze them in and then some months look a bit plain because not a lot happens in there. So because of that reason, I just pretty much create myself a calendar. If you don't really want to create yourself a calendar, you could always print one out to your size and just stick it in there. That's always very easy as well, and then just highlight them. That's my personal opinion, but of course it's your journal, you could do it exactly how you like. Very common practice is your future log to be a 6-month overview of the year ahead. And then the following month, you do another 6 months and so on. But again, it is entirely up to you how you do that. On the next page, you will do your monthly log. So this will be for January. And again, there's a few ways of doing this. I personally like to, again, list the entire month by date. So I draw them out. and leave a little gap underneath just so I could jot things in there. A very common way is for you to list the dates on one side, the days next to it, and then leave a gap. Entirely up to you again how you want to do that. What I also like to do is my goal or achievements for January. So I always leave, if I can, space for that. And that's where you would just write things you need to get done. So for example, if you're one of those people that likes to get your shopping done in November for Christmas, then in November you might put Christmas shopping. Again, no set dates, but it's one thing you want to do in November. Another way to do that is to put those things in your goals. So on your goals page, you can write it as your monthly goals as well as an overview goal. So obviously in my example, I've left a page. There's nothing to say monthly goals, you can't write them as a separate page, or you could leave 2 pages, a double spread maybe, for your goals. Always try to write as much detail in a positive way about your goals in your journal. So for example, if your goal is to lose weight, then I would write something like lose X amount by this month to get myself in better shape, rather than something like lose weight to stop being fat. Saying something like to get into better shape, to feel better, to feel healthier, helps you get a bit more motivated. For habits, I love to believe that it takes 21 days to build a habit. So I try to keep a checklist of how long I do a particular habit for. But you can, again, tweak this as much as you like. As for well-being, I like to keep track of my mood. So I will rate my mood on a daily basis based on colours, but you could always do it based on smiley faces. In my example, we left a page for your key. This is where you can say what the different highlights mean if you've used highlights for your diary, what your different colours mean if you're using a mood tracker, also what different symbols mean in your daily log. You might want to use different types of symbols. So a circle, a dash, a dot, a star, or alternatively, you might use different colours for it. But in that, you'll want to put what the different colours mean. I would personally include a area for gratitude within your daily log. So some people will write their daily logs as with the date, the day, and then just a list of what they need to do. So some days might be longer, some days may be shorter. I personally like to use a whole entire page for my daily log, and in that I like to include different elements. So I personally like to include my to-do list. With that, I will probably use 2 different types of symbols. So a star for the 3 top priorities, and then the bullet points for the rest of the stuff. I then like to write out my appointments. My appointments, they have their own little sections, but I always do them with little bullet points. And then I would write some form of motivational quote for myself, and it could be anything. Sometimes it's just things like, just get through the day. I will then write my gratitude. So when I do my page, I will write my gratitude just so I'm starting off feeling motivated and thankful for the day. And then I would write my goals out. And then there's always space to do anything else that I need to. Sometimes that could include like a brain dump, for example. It is entirely up to you how you make it look, and you can personalize it and you can change it. So it doesn't have to have the set look throughout. My very first bullet journal probably had like several different themes and styles. Some days my bullet journal looks all fancy and pretty and neat, and some days it looks like absolute mayhem, because it all depends on the type of day you're having. Of course, here I've just given you examples of some of the stuff I use. You can use a lot more or keep it absolutely basic. Always be open to changing it, because that's the whole point of your index page being quite flexible, but do personalize it and use it as often as possible. If you're new to bullet journaling, one of your habit tracking should be bullet journaling. So you could do a nice little tick or color in that day to say you've done it. Trust me, it's a brilliant motivator. So a few things I will say: do not overcomplicate it. If you can, start simple and then build it on the go as you get more used to it. Do not feel pressured into making it look perfect. You're not going to get graded on it. So just make it work for you and try and turn it into a habit. So use it as often as possible, just so it becomes a habit and it becomes a part of your daily routine. So that is it really. There's a few examples there on how your bullet journal can actually look. Obviously, I will put a link to my video where I've gone through the steps for you in more detail, so I hope you find that useful. If you've not already subscribed, do click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you get notified on my videos in the future. If you've liked what you've seen, give me a thumbs up. Leave me a note in the comments. I am so eager to hear how it's going. I do have a free Facebook group where we go into a lot more detail with all this sort of stuff, as well as a membership group where we talk all things journaling and help get journaling part of our daily routine with my support and a supported community. So I will put the links below if you're interested in that at all. But until next time, happy journaling.